Got it. All right, well, I guess we can get started. I still see folks entering in the room, so we'll just get started. Hello, everyone. Good morning and welcome to our first session of WebCamp 2023. Woohoo! Virtual. So today, let's see, we're going to be talking about upcoming changes to Stanford sites, right? So I'm Cynthia Mijares. I'm a web project manager for Stanford Web Services, and I will let my coworker Dina introduce herself, and then we can get started.
Great. Hi, everyone. Nice to see so many familiar faces. I am Dina DeBry. I am the Senior Manager of Client Solutions for Stanford Web Services. I'll pass it back to you, Cynthia.
Awesome. All right, I'm going to share my screen. Let me see if I can do this here. Okay. Let me get rid of all these other things. So bear in mind, it's camp. Okay, does everyone see that? Awesome. Okay, so there's our intros we did. So let's just get right into what is it we're going to be going over today, right? And here's our agenda. So first, we'd like to do a little bit of a overview of Stanford Sites. So that's the product that we use for our Drupal platform. And so we'll like to take a look at the roadmap, where we are, where we're heading in the next couple releases. And then big one is accessibility improvements. And that's been a big effort, I think, globally, right? So the Global Accessibility Day is like in a few days, May 18th, I believe. So we are right on track with everyone else around the world and getting our accessibility scores up, right? So we'll talk a little bit about that. We've got some changes to our admin theme and the text editor. And then there is some effort around the Acquia Cloud Edge and the firewall, some security things. So we'll talk about that. And then the big one is our sneak peek at layout paragraphs. So we've got a dev site that's sort of just, I mean, it's not perfect yet because it's going to be coming in the next couple releases. But we have a sneak peek, so let's take a look at that and do a little demo, and then some time for QA. So because it's camp and we're pretty flexible, if you guys want to chime in as we go along or have a question as we go along, feel free to unmute yourself and just jump in or ask a question on chat. One of us will be monitoring that as we go along, right? Okay, so let's first talk about the roadmap. You want to go take this?
Yeah. So for those of you who are familiar with Stanford Sites, you'll hopefully sort of see where we're going. For those of you who are not, Stanford Sites is is a platform that is free to anyone on campus to make and provision a site. In fact, it's automated. It's a little ServiceNow ticket, and it returns to a site. And we treat this very much as a service that we improve and grow over time. So for those of you who've been on the platform for a while, you've probably noticed as we've introduced new features to the platform. And indeed, this session is hopefully to give you an overview of that. But before we get into some of the particulars of this next release, we thought it might be nice to sort of take a look at the current state of the roadmap. And there's some links. We can share these slides afterwards too. We do maintain a version of the roadmap on our Stanford Sites user guide. We also do release notes for each of our releases. So, what I'm going to share now is what our plans for those releases are. But of course, if things don't test well or we are able to add something additional, we may change the releases a little bit. So where are we now? We're actually on version 3.1.0 of Stanford Sites. We released that version in December, and it included some features, including a simple policy content type, a way of handling 404s for images and pages. That's pretty fast. We added some things to the events importer to allow bookmarked events to be imported. We added the last modified date on search results, updated to PHP 8.1. And then we added some additional controls in the editing interface. So we added the ability to control how many levels down, if you're using drop-down menus, they can display, and the ability to turn on or off that external link arrow. Some people love it, some people don't like it as much. We also introduced the ability to do some tagging for your media library, which for some of you who have very vast media libraries, I'm hoping will get used as we grow our media libraries over time. Our next two releases, we have one that's what we consider a minor release. That'll be 3.2. And then we have a major release in July, 4.0. So in our 3.2 release, we have some accessibility improvements, and I think Cynthia will be giving a little bit of an overview of that in a few moments. We're going to be doing some updates to Google Analytics tagging code. For those of you who use Google Analytics on your site, Google Analytics, Universal Analytics is retiring at the end of June. And so everybody will be using some slightly different tagging code and what's called GA4, Google Analytics 4. So we're prepping for that change. And then we're also working on the Acquia Cloud Edge pilot, which I'll talk about a little bit later in this presentation. The major release, and the one that's going to be much more visible than the minor release, like you might not even notice we've released version 3.2, except for hopefully your site improve reports will come out a little bit cleaner. But for 4.0, you're definitely going to notice it. And that's one of the things we are hoping to get a chance to talk to everybody about today, so we can sort of prepare you for the future and hopefully get you a little bit excited about it. One of the things, a major thing in that 4.0 release is Drupal 9.5. And Drupal 9.5 is actually a very major version of Drupal. Doesn't sound like it because it's not the first number, but it's actually basically all the prep work for when we take the platform to Drupal 10 later this year. So it's really important work for us to get released and out. The version that it's on right now is Drupal 9.4, which is end of life over the summer. We're also going to be introducing a big change to our editing experience, and we'll show a little sneak peek of that too. And we're using a tool called Layout Paragraphs. There's also a new admin theme in 4.0, so we'll show you a little bit about what that looks like. And then again, we're also adding some more accessibility improvements.
That's a lot. There's always something happening, right? So let's talk about those accessibility improvements. There is a whole, if you're familiar with Jira, there's like a ton, there's like, I don't even know how many backlog tickets in there, but I just wanted to highlight a few things, especially around accessibility and things that you may notice. So we definitely are prioritizing this with the SOTA office. And is anyone from the SOTA office on here? Big shout out to the SOTA office. Thank you so much for your partnership. But things that are going to be noticeable or visible for people who are using the site is there's going to be improvements to things that like voiceover, things like the focus order. So if you're doing screen readers or tabbing through the site, that's going to be a big improvement, and our accessibility scores will go up. So that's huge. One thing that's going to be a visible change will be the differentiation between the headings. So your heading 2 and heading 3. Right now, there isn't much of a differentiation if you're using them in cards. So you will see that. And then we have and more, because there's literally a whole page full of tickets, but a lot of those accessibility fixes are code things like ARIA or landmark things or different elements and IDs, but nothing that's going to be super visible to the end user. So that's a big thing on accessibility that will always be something growing on, right? And then we talked a little about the admin theme. So right now, hopefully you guys can see this as a little sneak peek, but currently we're on 7 and we're moving to something called Claro. And you can see Claro on the right. It's a lot more spacious, bigger fonts. And again, this is for accessibility. It's going to get us more accessibility improvements on the admin side. Let's see what's next. Another visible change, and all of these changes, the admin theme and the site editor, these will be coming in 4.0, so July timeframe. This is the editor. So the top one is what you currently see if you're using Stanford Sites, and the CK Editor 4. So you can see the buttons have like sort of that sandstone background. The icons are a little bit squished together, versus CK Editor 5. It's a lot more spacious. And depending on how many are on the bar, if you will, menu bar, there's a ... because I noticed if I increased my screen size, I lost some of the icons. I was like, where did they go? And they're hidden in the ... So it's just a lot more spacious. Even the text area, this is literally the same exact page on two different sites, one using CK Editor 4 and one using CK Editor 5, the same text and everything. And so you can see the slight differences on the back end. So let's move on. Okay. Acquia, Cloud Edge.
Yeah, so as I mentioned in the, we're actually already starting to pilot it, and we'll pilot it with a larger group in the June timeframe. So what is this? So we have, as you might imagine, Stanford is a large target. So we have particularly starting at the end of 2022, but certainly before that, but it has been much more intense lately, been hit with a lot of malicious traffic. And that has caused a number of things that happen, right? So it causes slowdowns in both the editor experience. It can impact the performance of people, viewing the sites. And yes, and Sean, it's extremely annoying. And it always, for some reason, also seems to happen at like Friday at 4 p.m. or something. So we are piloting and hope to roll out to Stanford Sites and to other custom Drupal applications that we run, Acquia Cloud Edge. And that is basically a web application firewall, sometimes called a WAF. And it is being put in place to improve the performance and the stability. So what it does is actually stop that malicious traffic at what they call the edge, right? So before it hits your web server, before it hits your before it hits Drupal. So the idea is that it keeps that traffic away from your site. And it does so using a variety of methods. It does have an additional layer of caching on top of it. And for some of you who are frequent site editors, you can know that caching can be annoying when you're trying to edit a page and see what it looks like. But it's great for the end user who is trying to have a page served to them quickly. So we're doing some tests right now to see what the editing impact would be. But in general, we think it's going to be a gain. It also includes a content delivery network, which caches assets in geodiverse locations. So somebody who is perhaps viewing your site who is, say, maybe in Europe, or Asia, is going to get the copies of the assets that are cached in a location that is closest to them. So that should also increase the performance across the stack. And then again, one of the other big improvements is really just the protection from malicious actors. So for those of you who've maybe been editing a site on a Friday afternoon when we're getting hit with bots, and your editing experience slows down, we're hoping that this is going to keep that completely off and not impact Drupal at all. And I think there's a couple of people on this call who probably have sites who are already in our pilot program right now. So we're testing it for performance, like I said, for any impact to the editing experience. And when we roll it out, we'll probably, give some statistics about what we've seen so far with it.
Is the intent that we're going to roll it out on all of our sites eventually? Is that right?
I think that is our plan. Yes, but it's sort of pending testing. It will probably be like an opt out, but again, we're still in the pilot phase.
I'm learning here too. All right, well, let's get into layout paragraphs. What does it look like, right? I'm going to change my screen share here. Okay. So this is a out of the box site. It's still in development. So you can kind of see it like it looks the same, right? From the front end visually, it looks the same to the end user. As far as like our edit buttons, there's our menu, all of our typical paragraph types that we have, cards and banners and text areas, things like that. And is everyone familiar with Stanford sites? I'm going to just assume that this is kind of familiar territory. Okay, great. So I'm going to skip all the intro kind of talk and just get into what the editing experience is going to look like. So basically from the front end, it all kind of looks the same. But when we get to editing, and I have a tab here for editing the homepage, it looks very different because typically in D7, maybe I have something here. Let me log in. I just was sharing our user guide. Okay, that's not a good page to scroll. Sorry about that. I'll log in over there and show you guys a comparison. And still loading. Okay, just show this homepage. So if I edit this, currently our sites have this grid look, and we've got all of our paragraph components to the right, and this is using something called React. So we're moving over from React now to use layout paragraphs, and instead of having all of our components in tiny little Lego blocks, you can actually see them. They're right here. It looks basically like your front end. So as far as editing and things like that, we can move these around. There's a little arrow button here to move things around, or you can drag things around as well to reorder your pages. There is an edit. You can duplicate them, which is nice. I mean, if you have a card and just want to create a bunch of cards or text areas, you can duplicate that pretty easily. Duplicate. Do it again. Okay. Yay for live demos. It's not duplicating now. Let me refresh. Reload. Okay. Thanks, Dina. See stuff happening in the chat. Okay.
Well, Cynthia's loading this. So this editing experience, I think, is going to give people a number of things that we've been asked for. So for example, uneven columns. We're hoping eventually to add some things where you can add backgrounds to sections. So I think it's going to allow for a lot more dynamic layouts, and also the ability to sort of preview your content to some extent in that environment is something people have been asking for a while.
Hey, Dina, quick question. It's all amazing. I'm like excited for the paragraph, for the layouts. But what are the limitations of, there's always limitations and there's always caveats to any feature implementations or new like frameworks. Could you elaborate a little bit more on that?
Yeah, that's actually a really great point. And it's true. There's always some trade-offs. I think some people probably enjoyed the sort of Lego stack, right? So the ability to, if you had a super long page, drag and drop things around a little bit in that more compressed, like Cynthia's doing right now. I think, we're definitely losing that view of it, but I think the gains are probably better. One of the things that has been a little hard about the aggressive row nature of our previous layout too is that sometimes you kind of want to put two rows together, right? Like they kind of belong together, and that's actually harder to do in our current system. So this allows you to put them in a section together and kind of keep them, if you can imagine, like a header and a row of cards and maybe a banner that all conceptually go together. So but it is at sort of the expense of sort of your page at a glance in the editing experience.
Thank you. We're still working in Drupal 7, the UAT level. So this is nice to see. I'm excited for this one.
All right, I'm back. I think it's the dev site, so it just takes it takes a while to load. So anyways, let me just get into some of the editing features. One of the nice things that we can do now is publish and unpublish these. So that was one of the issues in our current site, is if you have a paragraph, it was either there or you had to remove it. You couldn't just unpublish it or work on it and publish it later, right? So that is just a nice feature. Cancel that. We can add sections here. Instead of dragging something over to the side, we're going to click the add section. And then we decide on a layout, whether it's a single column, 2 column, or 3 column. And I'm just going to go 2 column right now. The layout options is also a nice feature. I'm not sure if this has worked. I haven't really tried it, but currently if we drag 2 cards or 2 items in a row, it's 50-50. You don't get a choice. So now we're going to be giving you a choice of your items in that row, whether it's 50-50, a third, 2/3, whatever. And then there's that administration label, which I highly promoted in our current site, because when you're looking at this grid, you're like, I don't know which one is which. So I always recommended, labeling which text area is that. So when you're editing, you can find it. It's not as important, I don't think, in the new system with layout paragraphs, because everything is visible right there. So you can just see it. All right, so I'll just go with 50-50. So now that I've got my new section, and then I'm going to just click the plus button. And instead of dragging things over, here are all my paragraph types. So I'm just going to choose a couple text areas, grab some, whatever, text. There's one. And then again here. So that some people might think, oh, this is going to take me longer because I actually have to click a plus button instead of dragging something over. But there's pros and cons, right? So a couple different text areas, and then I can reorder these by using the layout arrows, or I can use the hand tool and just drag them up and down. So that still is something that's going to stay. I haven't actually tried leaving one unpublished to see what it does. So I'm just going to experiment right now and we'll all see what it does. Is it going to leave me a blank space? I don't know.
This is not a fully baked demo yet, because we're still
it's still
adding styling for this and features. So
yeah. But basically you get the idea. Let's see if I can duplicate now. I have this thing, this section. I want to duplicate this. So there it is. Okay. Which is a nice starting point. I can duplicate a paragraph or delete it. Yes, delete. And maybe I want to add a row, another section with a different arrangement. And I'm going to do this just to see. It still looks 50-50, so maybe that's not really a thing yet. But I will add it, because you never know. When we save it, maybe it works. Who knows? Maybe it's a ticket in the backlog. All right, let's just save the page. So you can see there is a plus to this, so you can kind of see everything on your page. One thing I noticed, because I can see it, I wanted to click in the text area and start typing, but you actually have to click the little edit button to edit. It seems like it would be a nice thing to just click here and start editing, because it looks like you can, but you actually have to click on the pencil icon. All right. Scrolling all the way down. All of this stuff is still the same. Notice. Okay, so I see that it's still 50-50. And we've got an unpublished text area here. So most likely if it's unpublished, it'll be a blank space on your page. I'm not sure how that's going to work yet. I would have imagined this would have taken up the full width.
Yeah, I think we'll add some styling for this so that it, and those may not be the exact layout choices we have either. So we'll probably be testing a few. So there will be some options, which I think will be really nice.
Yes. And let's see. This is still the same. You can still edit here in line. Just that one component. Of course, our editing, it's slow to load. So apologize for that. But that's still, so that's something you can do currently, and that's something that you can still do. So that was a nice feature that we're not losing. I actually have a basic page. Here's how it looks when we start adding a section. All of this is not really fully baked yet. Are we going to need testers, Andrea?
Yeah, I'm sure we will.
Yeah, we've actually piloted layout, not even piloted, but layout paragraphs is already on some production sites, and it's going to be on another production site that's launching any day now, right, Dina? You know what I'm talking about?
Yes. Yeah.
And yeah, so it's already out there. So now we're bringing it back to all, 3,000 of our other friends. So, but yes, thank you, Andrea, for volunteering. Yeah, that's still loading. Okay. We have time. So any questions or any suggestions or feedback on the experience that you've seen so far?
Or any questions about any of our other upcoming changes? We're happy to open it up.
Yes.
I think if we want to make our wish list on like the footer, because we're moving from like one of our clients, so to speak, or one of our partners, we're moving over to the site, and we don't have a persistent, like we do like a little, wouldn't call it an image gallery, but like a series of 3 cards. We'd like to make like one series of 3 cards, and then that just populates the word. It would be a checkbox. I mean, this is a nice to have, obviously, right? We have a checkbox, and then you could kind of say, like you do with blocks, where will it show up? Even if you just put in, if it was too hard to make it persist, even if you could just put in the node numbers of where you'd like to, have this block of 3 show up, because otherwise what they have to do is on each page that they want to see it, they have to create it. Or if that's not possible, like a way to clone from page to page. We like this thing that we built, and we just want to shove it onto this other page, so
You could
that
make
would be
it.
cool.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, you could make a page template and just clone it for whenever you wanted to use it. So that would work.
Okay.
The whole page. But I can also add that in the backlog. There's a link on the user guide for submitting feature requests. So we do, we do take those. Obviously we have to fit it in with other work that we have to do for maintenance on the site, but we do take the ones that we get the feature requests pretty seriously. Sometimes it might already be in the backlog too. So on the user guide, you can also take a look at the features that have already been requested. So in that, I think somewhere on the feedback on bug reports, it might actually be on the, I think, Cynthia, it's actually on the what's new tab. There's a feature request list. So you can sort of see what's.
And I think the other thing that we like, and I don't know how easy this is, when you create cards, if there was a way to select a fixed width card, so you have like 3 cards across, and you want to, because right now you put more text in one is longer and the other one is shorter. And on our own websites, they glue those in place. So it's always, and then people, even if you get a message saying that's too much text or 10 words or less, or something like that, it would be nice that they wouldn't kind of be all different sizes.
We have that on that. You'll see that that's near the top of
Oh,
the
that's cool.
request
Okay.
list. So it'll probably be a variant.
Okay.
Just because some people prefer the organic edge at the bottom for readability purposes, but it might be a choice that you'll be able to make. So that's definitely in our backlog.
Well, great job, guys. I mean, this was so easy to move this site over to Sites, and it was really nice to work with. So
that's great to hear. Irina, did you have a question or comment?
Yes, I have several questions that are related to each other. This will be propagated to existing sites, correct?
Correct.
So when we're teaching class, because when I'm teaching class for tech training, I want to make sure that I'm not teaching on the outdated instance.
All instances are the same. We have no separation. So yeah.
What I'm saying is the current curriculum is tied to existing way of editing things. So when this is gonna go live?
Our plan is July.
July. Okay. I just probably will send it. Thank you for amazing presentation, and I'm very happy to see layout paragraphs working here. I think I'm gonna try to connect with tech training to make sure that we give consistent message to community. Thank you.
Thanks, Irina. Yeah, for those on campus, if you, we do a monthly intro to Stanford Sites training, which is only an hour, and we only get to cover, a little bit, the paragraph types, the basic page, how to use your site. But Irina does a fabulous job. I think it's like a 3-hour long class, right? Yeah, and she does a deeper dive and gets into other content types and taxonomies and users and more. So yeah, if you want a deeper dive into Stanford Sites, I highly recommend that one. Okay, any other questions about the move to layout paragraphs or WAF, or any suggestions even? We'll take that too. Hey, Aaron.
Hey, I think it would be cool, and you probably are going to do this, but on the user guide to show some examples of cool layouts that'll be possible now that weren't possible before. Because it's one thing to see the tool, but it's another to realize what you can do. So that'd be cool.
That's a great idea. I love that idea.
Yes, definitely. I think that's one of the other things in the backlog is right now, everything is in a row, so you have 3 items in a row, but we used to have, or having the ability to have maybe 2 items in the first section and then 1 item in the second and third, like that staggered kind of look.
Yeah.
That's coming too. Just more layout flexibility and more variations.
We've got a question in the chat from Sean about the FAST 404 module. So the FAST 404 module, and I can see if I can find a link to it, basically makes it so that when something generates a 404, it's not going back. My understanding is that it's not going back to Drupal to deliver you that. So it's a way of basically reporting that 404 really fast without bogging things down. I'll put a link to the module in there too. So you can see it working on Stanford Sites right now. If you add a bad path, you should get a 404 page really quickly.
And if you're on Site Improve or using Site Improve to check your sites, that's also a nice way to catch those 404s and fix them. I always use them.
True.
Wilfred's been experimenting with storage entities instead of using paragraphs, which should allow the reuse of paragraph storage entities in different places. Interesting. What site do you maintain? Well, monitor?
Loma Linda University Health.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, we've been trying to do stuff with it, but yeah, it's a different paradigm shift. So you, instead of using a paragraph, basically where you use a paragraph, you use a storage entity. It kind of treats it the same way, but you could access it like you would a node. So you could probably add it to other places. We haven't. We're still trying to figure out how to use it, but it seems to be a different way to go. Paragraphs.
I've actually seen some groups that also build a paragraph type that's a reusable paragraph type, right? So it is also doing some sort of entity reference so that you can pick between things you've stored. So I was sort of thinking about that idea a little bit too.
That's definitely something that we lost moving into Stanford sites that we used to have, but I think that the need is definitely out there.
I have a quick question. More on the custom code and the CSS libraries that will be used for the layout paragraphs. Is it gonna, I'm not sure. I know that currently we are using Bootstrap. And if we need to create a custom code, you just do go and create a custom code. What would change in this new update?
We're not, I mean, we may add some CSS to support those different width columns, but in general, we're still using our Stanford Basic theme, which is a Drupal 9 theme, which is based off Decanter, which is the design library for the university. So I don't know. I think for your site, we had suggested that you start with Stanford Basic, which also uses Decanter. So if you end up using that theme, that would be it. And you can sub theme on top of Stanford Basic. There are sort of starter kits for doing that if you're a developer. So so that might be something that you will do on the site, because I know you'll have some customizations on your site that probably we wouldn't have accounted for in our Stanford Basic theme.
I mean, the whole idea is to move fully to Drupal 9. And I think the UIT community website is moving in November. There's going to be a huge initiative, and I really look forward to transition out of that. Thank you. Thank you.
Ling Ling had a question about revisions, and I was just replying, and yes, we do keep revisions. I believe we keep 5 revisions back so it doesn't blow up. So that's something to keep in mind. I'm just going to click on this. I don't know if there's how many revisions we've gotten here. So yeah, 5 revisions back. So that's something to keep in mind.
A question about adding CSS injector or possibly JavaScript injector. We will not be adding that to Stanford sites. There's a lot of concerns around accessibility, and having arbitrary CSS on the site is considered a little bit of a risk. However, we do have some groups doing sub-theming on the site. So if you have a strong interest, and particularly if you have development skills, I'd be happy to talk to you about doing a sub-theme on the site, and we can just make sure it gets through the proper level of testing to maintain accessibility. But we have a few groups already who have custom sub-themes on Stanford sites, and that does seem to work pretty well.
And that's to maintain the integrity of the core product itself. And any customizations would be done, in that sub-theme.
In that sub-theme, yeah. We've also tried to keep the way that sub-theme's organized scoped well, so that when we do roll out new features, hopefully it will do so in a less disruptive fashion, right, for people who have sub-themes on the site, and then decide to use those features. I had another point there, but I just lost it. So if there's more questions, we can answer those.
Yeah.
So since you are changing the Google, kind of the tag manager, I think, like Google, they're coming out with like a 4.0. Are you prepared for that?
Yeah, GA4. So
Yeah.
yeah, so the tag code will be updated. It's actually partially done already. We actually did an audit of site users who were on Stanford sites who were still using a universal analytics code, and we sent them some communications telling them, hey, it's time to update. For groups who have us managing their analytics, we actually created a GA4 account for every single one of those sites already, and we'll update the codes for on the sites for anyone who we manage their GA4. Obviously, we can't do it if we don't have access. So if you're doing your own, you would have gotten an email from me saying that your universal analytics code on the site needed to be swapped. So if you didn't get an email, you're probably in pretty good shape. We added the GA4 accounts where we had access a few months ago. We added it. We didn't swap out the code on the site yet. We just sort of passively used the GA4 setup assistant. So for groups who, we didn't want to remove access to their universal analytics because people have dashboards built on those and custom reporting and things like that. But it should be collecting GA4 for them in the background, so that, on July 1st, if they decide, okay, now I'm going to go look at my GA4, it'll have data in there, which will be nice, hopefully.
I just put a link into the chat because I think, Dina, you created this
I did.
page with steps on everything to do to switch over.
Yeah, chances are if your site is newer, you already have GA4 because they've been provisioning those automatically when you get a new Google Analytics account for kind of a while as the default. And like I said, if you didn't get an email from me, you probably don't have a universal analytics code installed, at least through Drupal. We do support Google Tag Manager. It's not out of the box, but you can get a container added to the site. So if you had universal analytics hidden in a Google Tag Manager container that we added for you, you would not have gotten an email from me because I can't poke in your Google Tag Manager container, but everybody else should have gotten it.
All right, we're almost at time. Any last minute questions? Dina and I will probably hang out for a little bit if you want to stay
Yeah.
on. But otherwise, if you want to hop off and get an early start on lunch, like if we were in person, there would be a mad rush to something food. It's almost noon. But enjoy the rest of camp.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for those
Thank
who
you
are
so
on
much,
campus.
Dina and Cynthia.
Thank you for
Thank
those
you.
who are on campus. Some people are having lunch at Treehouse. So if you are within walking distance of Treehouse, you might see some friendly faces there. And thank you for a great session.
Thanks, Irene.